Anyway, Wes also mentioned how it was amazing that the early church grew from 11 scared disciples to overhauling the Roman world. On this, the sociologist Rodney Stark estimates that in its first 300 years, Christianity grew at a rate of 40% per decade, from a small group in the 1st century to 3 million in the 4th century. That sounds pretty impressive, until you learn that this is the same growth rate experienced by Mormonism since its foundation in the 19th century. So if the rate of Christianity's growth is good evidence of its truth, Mormonism just became a whole lot more plausible.
Here's the root of the question I'm curious for you to weigh in on. Is the amazing growth of Christianity a good argument for Christianity? If so, what about the growth of Mormonism?
Here, my sympathies are with Alex. I do not think that you can simply point to the growth in the size of a movement as a good argument for the truth of the founding principles of that movement. Islam would be another counterexample. Islam grew tremendously after Muhammad and took over much of the world, even threatened the Christian West. And so it's simply not true that the success of a movement is indicative of the truth of that, of what the movement stands for. Rather, in my published work, I've tried to recast this consideration in terms of explaining the very origin of the Christian movement itself. What I mean is this: we know that Christianity sprang into being sometime about mid-1st century. Where did it come from? What caused this movement to arise? Well, all scholars agree that the movement arose because these earliest disciples had suddenly and sincerely come to believe that Jesus had been raised by God from the dead. And that raises then the further question, well, where in the world did they come up with that belief? And I think that the best explanation for the origin of that belief and the transformation in these first disciples is that they were right, that God had raised Jesus from the dead.
I think in fairness, Wes would agree with you. I don't think he was necessarily saying that this amazing growth proves Christianity is true. I think he's saying this requires an explanation from 11 scared disciples to overhauling the Roman world. So I really think it would line up with your point. Now, obviously, numbers alone are not, they don't prove that something is true or not. I mean, if stats are right, by 2070, Islam could be larger than Christianity. Does that prove it's true? Of course not. But I think we don't have to do this here, but we could look at some of the differences between even the growth of Christianity, completely unexpected in Christianity, versus the opportunities to grow in the 19th century with kind of a Christian framework in the burned over district, which Mormonism came from. We could splice some of those differences, but I don't think it's really relevant. The big question is what explains this growth? Yeah. And they consistently pointed to the claim that Jesus had died, risen from the grave, and appeared to them. I think that's the heart of it. Really, really well said.